Joe, I feel a little uneasy up here, but that's all.
Larry, you'll do just fine.
So I'm trying to figure out where. Oh, that's on the end of the building by the
Looks like that
senior
one.
center, isn't it?
What's that?
This is where you go in for the senior center on the side, like right
This is
here.
around, this is around the north side.
Right, okay.
Very good. All right, you do.
The place that's used all the time.
Talk to Susie. She just texted me.
Yeah,
Yeah, I made that connection. I said, what you doing all the time? Maybe setting up the form. Putting some good questions on there. Masters of that. So.
Yeah. She was telling me that she already had even more.
Yeah.
She wanted it done already.
So that's all good.
Okay, it's 5:15, so we're gonna call the meeting, August meeting of the Park Board to order. First item on the agenda is the approval of the July minutes. Everybody had a chance to read them. Any corrections or additions?
Motion to approve the minutes as written.
Second.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. New business, unfinished business, I'm sorry. Central Park Master Plan Design Collaborative.
Good afternoon. My name is Ron Dick, architect with Design Collaborative in Fort Wayne, and here today to talk about the process that we've been through so far. This is an update presentation for you today. We've been at this for a few months now, gathering a lot of input and a lot of information, and we're here to share some of the initial draft of a master plan for the Central Park at Warsaw. And so we want to kind of go through our quick agenda. Going to show you the current status of your wonderful Central Park, the positive impact and the influence of the Buffalo Street project on this project. We want to show some of the future opportunities that have been talked about through our information gathering sessions. And that included the Lakes Festival. We set up and a tent and took in a lot of conversation, a lot of information. We're going to share some of that data with you that we collected. And then kind of want to show some of the master plan sketches and schemes for your input today. And then make sure that we're talking about the right next steps. So dig into it. We're going to show a bunch of diagrams today, and they all kind of orient with the Center Lake to the north and your current Central Park. Again, a great facility, obviously well used by the community in the region, with different elements that are a part of that existing park. The Center Lake Beach obviously is one of the key attractions for the park, and the pier. The pier is also a long-standing attraction for the lake and for the park. However, you probably are all aware that the pier itself and the construction of the pier is causing some issues. Currently, water cannot flow underneath it, and it's creating some eddy pools or some issues with E. coli on the east side of the pier. So I think you've had some investigation to that, and the recommendation is that it be removed. And more to follow on that in our master plan discussion. The pavilion, again, a great amenity, well used by the community, is a centerpiece of the park. And there's been conversation, should it stay or should it go? And I believe I know that the direction is for it to stay and for it to be enhanced to the point where it can become even more of a community asset. So we'll talk more about that. The Kittyland Park, again, a strongly utilized portion of the park, immediately to the east of the pavilion. The tennis courts and Bixler Park are also component pieces that are on the north side of the park. The biblical gardens continue to grow and flourish, as do the gardens of the Central Park. And obviously, the Municipal Park Plaza is used throughout the summer, throughout the seasons, as a strong amenity. So everything that we want to talk about from a master planning standpoint wants to enhance and improve everything that's already in that park. We don't really want to take away anything. We want to really, we've been directed through all of these community input sessions to enhance and improve what's there. The lawn and stage, obviously a centerpiece to the park, and then some things that we think that we can make improvements to. And Larry could probably get into a lot more detail about the park's garage, the maintenance facility that's located in location 11 on this map, and then the Parks and Rec main offices are in a key location that are infringing upon the new Buffalo Street development. So those really are in a bad spot from a master planning standpoint for that development. Obviously, the new development of the Buffalo Street townhomes, the Buffalo Street Plaza, and the future mixed building that is marked by number 15 there in a really prominent location on the western part of the main park. Oops. Oh. So I see what happens here. So these are new opportunities. NIPSCO has informed the city that their substation there can be greatly downsized. So we've got a great opportunity then for number 14 on this map. That's the footprint that NIPSCO needs for their upgraded facility. And that work, I believe, starts in 2019. They're geared to dig into that. So that frees up some ground indicated by number 13. And to the south of there's a couple of properties that are owned and some opportunity properties that's denoted by number 15. And that allows, with number 15, allows some potential ideas for a new Fort Wayne Street entry into the park proper. So some great opportunities beyond what is already there. So as we continue to gather input and talk to the park department staff, city staff, planning staff, other areas of opportunity for improvement include the Center Lake Lawn parking area denoted by number 16 and the Center Lake Pavilion. The pavilion services you well, but we believe, and with the input we've gathered, we believe that there can be some great improvements made to that facility. At some point in time, the Detroit Street entry from a master plan standpoint could be improved. The old gas station that is there is in an opportune location, and sometimes in master planning, whether it really makes some sense to try to plan for the future, even with some ground that you don't currently own. So that's what we're sharing today. So our process included, really kind of kicked off, there's a couple of kickoff meetings earlier in the spring, and then it really kicked off from a public standpoint with the Warsaw Lakes Festival. So colleague and project manager Chris Stein and I sat at the Central Park, the Lakes Festival in a booth and tried to solicit as much information as we could from the public as they walked by. And we created some surveys suggesting some potential uses for the park that anecdotally we had picked up along the way, including festivals, kayak canoe rentals, farmers market, recreational sports, bike rentals, concession stand, ice rink, public art. These are all things that have been talked about over the last several months as potential uses for the master plan. And so we gathered information, and probably hard to read this slide, but the main question was, what amenities does your park need? Festivals, kayak and canoe rental, ice rink, farmers market were the most selected choices in this informal casual survey. We had a lot of participants. I think we had over 200 that came by that day and gave their feedback. So in addition to the pre-charged kind of ideas that we had loaded out there, there were also some other ideas that people wanted to throw out, including zip lining, ponies, additional splash pads, fishing pole rentals. Somebody wanted us to make sure that the Kittyland turtle is improved. So again, we really tried to gather as much information as we could from that Fat Lakes Festival. And then we moved into some of the planning. On July 17th, we came back, put some maps on the wall, had a really good turnout from the public for a design session, broke into several tables, and then posted the findings up on the wall afterwards, and basically helped establish even more of a focus on some of the final draft of master plan issues that you're going to see here today. And this is the current version of the master plan, and we will enlarge some of these areas, but this is the zoomed back version with the area around the existing pavilion that we'll talk about, the area just north of the NIPSCO property, and some of the entry features also. So, and clearly the lake being one of the focal elements. Today it's one of the focal elements of the park. With this master plan, we really look to enhance that. And also some of the other things that have been talked about, increasing connectivity to the downtown, the urban area, increasing connectivity to bike paths and to both to the east and to the west, making sure that we're having a really strong connection to the Buffalo Street development. So those are all kinds of elements that are key to this master plan. Again, we're calling this draft because you're seeing it for the first time today, really looking to continue to gather input on this. So I'm going to zoom in on a couple of spots. We're going to first start over to the east with the location where the gas station currently exists. The idea here is to create, and we got this overwhelmingly in our solicitation of ideas. On that side of the park, it's really, especially coming from the north, you really don't realize you're at the park until you're almost past it. So the idea here is as the gas station canopy goes away, maybe potentially creating a long-term spot for a greenhouse and a visitor center, and doing something to mark that entry more than the monument signs that you've got there. Potentially there's some kind of an entry feature that could happen at that location, and really enhancing that piece of the property, and pulling the curb line back to create a decel lane to open up views and open up the vehicular entry into the space. Of interest to Larry then are, as we get into the park facilities themselves. And on this map you can kind of see coming from the Indiana, from the downtown and the Indiana Street entry, maybe repeating an iconic entry feature at that end. We've reserved at this point the ground south of the NIPSCO substation for a future development, future to be determined. And then just immediately to the north of that would be a reconstruction or a construction of a park, the maintenance facility for the park department. There's a tree line, there's a heavy tree line that would stay, that's designated there just to the east of the T-shaped building that you see. That, so that as you drive by the site, that there's a heavy tree line there that would remain to help screen this building to a degree, create kind of a private spot or the more private spot, and then to the north would be a public parking lot that doubles as daily traffic to that facility, but also in the case of festivals and the park being loaded would also double as public parking. And then immediately to the north of that is some additional parking for the facilities. And this is, again, just taking that idea of the maintenance facility and taking it to a little bit more level of detail with in and out traffic for service vehicles and the locker rooms and the service bays serving the park department in that facility. Now, really, obviously, the centerpiece then of the development is the pavilion itself. Immediately adjacent to the Kittyland Park is the main pavilion, and this master plan calls for it to be renovated and actually extended to the north toward the lake, and inserting the park department offices into that building to not only create a good spot for them to be located, accessible to the public, but also accessible to some of the amenities that surround them, and allows for some staffing, the ability to be really efficient with how the staffing can be arranged for the park department offices. Some minor renovations to that center island and the parking configuration. We added a handful of parking spaces around the curve and around the drop-off location. Didn't do much else to modify. There's actually a series of power lines that come overhead that we have to kind of work our way around, so we didn't really add any building product underneath those lines, but we did enhance some of the parking immediately to the front door of the renovated pavilion. And then obviously one of the key features is an open air pavilion. Open air because we had a lot of comments about not wanting to put any kind of a pavilion there or a building extension that really blocks views to the lake. And with this, and one of our next steps is to create some renderings to show this, but that is open air from the north end to the south end to allow for views to go through the space. There was also a lot of concern about losing too many trees in that area immediately adjacent to the existing pavilion. And with this scheme, we've actually a net gain of probably a dozen trees to the entire plan, because the building itself takes away about 6 trees in that area, and we've incorporated a bunch more into that plan. And also, it's hopefully you're able to see this from the open air pavilion to the south and all the way back into the main part of the park. To the south of there, we've really kind of opened up those views. We peeled some of the parking back a bit to enhance those views. And we've incorporated the idea of a potential sculpture garden in that area to create another amenity to the park. That was public art was again one of those things that were strongly requested by the public, and really trying to create an enhanced view shed between the new open air pavilion and the rest of the band shell and beyond. The key element to this is a replacement. Again, this is from a master planning standpoint. I already talked a little bit about the current pier that penetrates into the water and creates the issue with the water quality. Our suggestion here is to create an open pier with concrete stanchions that allow the water to pass underneath. So it truly is a pier that allows the water to flow through it. The open air pavilion itself, we'll get into it with a little bit more detail, but from festivals to farmers market to a wintertime ice rink within that spot, that's really the main drive for that pavilion. Multi-use, multi-faceted facility. Finally, it shows up here the suggestion from a long-term standpoint to create a boardwalk connection from the Buffalo Street development on to the east, or to the west. I'm going to flip back up to the overall shot, all the way up to I think you could call it the Fisherman's Pier to the north, and so that boardwalk extends the length past the tennis courts and Dreamer's Dream, creating an overpass extension that would tie into the bike paths that go east-west, I think, over to Pike Lake. So again, this is a big dream, but really trying to enhance that connectivity, safely connecting this park to other parts of the Greenway Trail. So I'm gonna flip back through the slides, and we're gonna zoom in on the building, and I'm gonna have Jared Mons come in and talk about the building itself. So this is the main Semper Park Pavilion as it exists today, and Jared's gonna walk you through the plan.
So as Ron was saying, this is the existing plan of the pavilion facilities. And we are proposing to add about 16 feet to the northern side of that pavilion, which adds about 1,200 square feet. This is sort of a view looking out, and we'll zoom in here in a couple shots to show you some more of the planning. What we really wanted to do was open up that northern side to the lake so that the meeting space inside has more value to it and has more exposure to the amenities that are already there that are kind of hard to see in the current setup of the facility. Some of that requires shifting some of the storage, thinking about shifting some of the kitchen and serving areas to allow that to happen. And like I said, we'll zoom in on that here in a second. We also noticed that there are some there is some second story space that is very underutilized, and we think that we could make that space a little more usable, not only to the public, but also to the park staff. And just briefly, this is showing that second story space. On the southern side, we're maintaining that as storage space so that it's not an occupiable space. It's mainly used for storage as it is today. And on the northern side, creating a second story office space for the Parks Department and having their offices sort of overlooking the lake and having a stronger connection to the facilities and the amenities that are already around them. So zooming in a little bit closer here, on the southern side of the building where the current entry is, we're proposing that that entry pretty much stays right where it's at and leads into a more defined vestibule, sort of separates that entry space from the meeting hall. But a lot of what's happening here is we're proposing it as restrooms and improvements to the restrooms that are already there. We show two exterior restrooms, one for men, one for women's, and that will service the lake goers in the summer and anybody who's out possibly at an ice skating rink during the winter. But we're also showing new and improved restrooms for the interior, and instead of having them on the northern wall, which they currently are today, pulling those back to the southern side so we can, again, get that exposure to the lake. We're also showing that the serving and kitchen is now sort of shown where the current meeting hall exists, and that's a lower area there. That's not the sort of double height space, and we thought that was a good space to bring the kitchen, pull the kitchen back, and have a little bit more accessibility to some of the parking that's there. And again, you see some storage there. That is really maintaining the storage that already exists for tables and chairs that service that meeting hall. Going to the northern side of the building, just shifting up there a little bit, you can still see the serving kitchen right off of the meeting hall. That meeting hall we're showing as having a really strong connection to our proposed open air facility that could be built next to the pavilion. That would allow events that are happening during the summer or the winter to have indoor and outdoor accessibility, and I think would really improve the facilities there. We're also showing a new conference center. This is an addition to the meeting hall, and It will really serve as a potential for a secondary event space, so you could have 2 events going on at once, or it could turn into one big meeting space, joining the meeting hall and the conference center and allowing views to the lake, which we think would really improve people's perception of being in that space and the event that's going on there.
And so imagine from a rental standpoint, think of a wedding, and think of the wedding party being in that space, and over their shoulders then is views of the lake, and maybe the dance floor is right in that area too. I'm just really excited about this enhancement to the pavilion. It opens up the entire building to the lake, which today, that pavilion space turns its back completely on the biggest amenity that's in the park. So we're pretty excited about that addition.
You also see there on the left side of the screen, we're showing, we're just shifting the lifeguard where the lifeguards are now, keeping it roughly the same size, what they've got now, same facilities as they have, just moving it a little bit closer to the lake so that they have that facility there. And then just north of that, the rentals and concession, having the possibility for kayak, canoe rental, skate rental, and also possibly having a concession stand for small food items at that corner that is really a key corner to the lake, but also to the open air pavilion that we're currently showing. And then shifting over to the right-hand side, you can see that we've got 2 areas showing up as storage. One is serving the meeting hall, and again, that's mainly for tables and chairs. And the one just to the north of that is a possible storage area for kayaks or canoes, just a small place that with an overhead door that kayaks could be stored away there, but also have somewhat close relationship to the lake. This is also the location that we're showing as how we would get to a second story for Parks Department office. And you can see there we're showing a stair and an elevator just adjacent to the vestibule. And I'll shift now to the second story to show you what we're proposing for that office space. Like I said before, we're showing the offices on that northern wall, having the Parks Department have views out to the lake and have a little bit of better connection to the lake and the beautiful property that they are on. We're also showing a small waiting area with a reception desk and some of the amenities and storage areas that office needs. And that completes what we're proposing to do with the pavilion as it is now, and it adds, like I said, about 1,200 square feet to the lower level and about 800 square feet to the second level, and I think it greatly improves the amenities there.
So we're going to back up just to make sure we address this pretty clearly with this view. On that main floor with the existing pavilion is in the color, but to the left is then that open air pavilion. And what we've drawn there is the pavilion. You can see how the boardwalk passes by on the north side. We think there's some great gathering spaces to be had on the north side of that open air pavilion, including potentially a fire pit or some kind of an amenity. And again, imagine tables and benches and seating along that side of the building, and then on the south side, same kind of a thing. A gathering space, benches, tables, chairs, just some great areas for people to gather. And then the pavilion itself, and the rink that we are showing that's dashed in this is really similar to if you've been to Fort Wayne, the Headwaters Park Pavilion and the ice rink that they have at the Headwaters Park in Fort Wayne. So that's about the size of that structure. The overall open air pavilion, I believe, is 80 feet clear span by 125 feet north-south. So that's the current size that we're showing on our master plan. So that's the site. Those are the building improvements, and talk a bit about the next steps. Release Safety Day is coming up, so I'm sure there will be some kind of outreach possible during the Safety Day event. We come back to you on September 18th, because I'm sure you're going to ask the question of, as you give us input, you're probably going to ask the question, okay, so how much does this master plan cost? And in the next few days, once we get a bit more of your input on the amenities that we're showing, we're going to give you a menu list of every piece and every part to this master plan. And I'm calling it a menu list because we're really going to try to break these pieces down free of each other so that we can have really good conversations. The long-term pieces, including the overpass with a price, and maybe some of those shorter-term pieces, including the open-air pavilion and some of the other low-hanging fruit pieces of this master plan, will be part of that presentation at your board meeting. And then we are geared toward a final presentation to the Park Department at the end of September. And probably by that, not probably, by that September 18th meeting, we're going to have additional renderings showing some of the vision and visuals for these ideas. Today, we've pretty much dealt with plan views and looking down on the structure and how things relate to each other. We'll go three-dimensional between now and that September 18th meeting to show more of the vision. The other thing from a public standpoint, we've been soliciting information and feedback on Facebook and Instagram, and so we've got some other ways that the public can chime in on these ideas. So we're really excited about where this has come. We're excited about the engagement that we've seen with the community, and happy to take questions.
Ron, I know when we talked earlier, where originally we had a carousel in there, are we still looking at that area?
Yeah, that was one of the
for
things that
potential
came from
skate
the
rental and
public
stuff like
feedback.
that,
I mean, there was
but,
some joking about the public feedback having a Ferris wheel, and that conversation in one of the group sessions turned into, well, how about a carousel? And we came to the Park Department last week with maybe a potential location. We kind of shifted some thoughts there, but there are other amenities. We believe there's space to make that happen, whether that's where we've located the sculpture garden, could be something like that, or historically, carousels and piers and boardwalks kind of all go together. I remember 25 years ago going to Santa Monica Pier and getting on the or seeing the carousel. So there are some other amenities that have been talked about that could be incorporated into the plan.
are we still looking at that space where we originally had the carousel, though, for an additional facility
We are.
for skating rental and things of that sort?
When we came last week, when we came last week, so where the open air pavilion, you see a little brown structure, roof structure immediately to the south and to the west. That's where we showed a carousel last week as an idea near the gathering space. And for this presentation, we've shifted that to, we do need some service for the open air pavilion for the ice. We need some mechanical equipment for the ice. We need to store a little Zamboni. We need potentially some warming locations for the wintertime activities. And so right now that box is a placeholder until we get a little bit more information on what program we can put into it. But for sure, we need to put some equipment for the ice storage making.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
I couldn't hear too well here, so I thought, are there two stairwells in the pavilion?
No, there's actually only one. The occupancy of that second floor is such that we only need one exit, one stair.
Is that an office at the top?
Yes.
You're gonna have to be careful with the ADA, the Disabilities
There's
Act,
an
if you're gonna have
there's an
people walking
elevator.
up.
Yeah, exactly, and we have put an elevator in it, so we've got
Oh.
a stair and an elevator, yeah. Yeah, we had some good discussion on that too. We want to make sure this entire facility is accessible to all, and that includes those offices.
Okay, thank you.
While you're right there, is that a restroom that you didn't mention up towards the top on the right? Because if we wanted to use those as two separate, we would have to have a restroom on that end.
Yes.
So that people wouldn't have to walk through the other meeting to get to a restroom.
Exactly right. So
Okay.
yeah, if you would notice where it says vest, there's a vestibule there. That would be, if the meeting hall is rented and the conference center is rented to a second group, that, you're exactly right. That the RR there is the restroom, most likely either unisex, or we would put, we'll have to split, because there's one immediately above that too, there's a restroom upstairs. So most likely, this would be a unisex restroom.
And then would there be, where the dotted line is, I assume a wall that could come across?
Yeah, exactly right.
You can't
It would be a-
approach it.
It would be it would be a folding wall that completely separates those.
Okay.
And that will allow us to rent out 2 spaces at the same time.
I think the conference center to the north is going to be a highly sought-after piece of property. I think it's going to be great.
What's the potential seating there?
I think in this kind of seating, easily 50 to 75.
Awesome.
This is all existing, the second story is currently existing.
Yep,
There's
there
no
is.
new construction
Yes.
going out.
Well, we're adding to the north, in the conference center, you see there's a dashed line?
Yes.
That's the existing outside wall. So we are
So
putting
there's-
an addition, we are pushing the wall to the north by about 20 feet, I think.
Which currently we have about, what, a 10-foot overhang, so
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah,
I was
we're
gonna say, that's
actually-
the
that we're
boardwalk
not
phase it takes
utilizing,
around.
so.
yeah. But we're also creating an additional overhang, so you notice the columns to the north there, that we believe that'd be a nice, again, for that space off of the rentals concessions ought to be a covered space. So the pavilion really has a wraparound porch around the entire facility.
So if the conference center is rented out, the meeting hall will have no view over the lake.
Correct, just like today. So I like keeping that wall open as much as possible.
And I would venture to say, Joe, that if somebody was renting that for a wedding or some sort, they would rent the whole facility. So they had, like Ron said, you know, the wedding party could be up in that area, or the dance floor, and they would have that view, you know, from the main room all the way through their concepts.
With access out to the covered area to the north too. It's outdoor area, but it's undercover.
The pier area straight out.
And actually, I think you were talking from the current stage on Central Park, it's almost a clear view to the lake
Yes,
through the open air.
it really is. The overall map shows that best from you can see from the stage, the current stage is to the south of that lawn area, a direct view to the north through the open air pavilion.
Any other questions for Ron?
Okay. Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, I stepped out. The addition to the north, will that be incorporated into the current footprint of the building, or will there have to be some exterior extension?
It's about a 20, there's about a 20-foot extension, the roof and the entire facility, and an overhang. So we're going toward the lake about another 20 feet.
Okay, anybody else have anything? More questions? All right.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank
Look
you.
forward to
Appreciate
seeing
it.
you in September.
Yes, sir. Thanks.
Okay, that's it for the unfinished business. Now, new business, request by Dan Allwine.
Yeah, Dan contacted me and would like to address the board on an issue here.
Thank you all for allowing me to be here this evening. My name is Dan Allwine, and I'm here representing the Warsaw Congregation of Jehovah's Witnesses. My purpose here is to petition you folks for permission to have a mobile literature cart at the Center Lake Park area. Just one cart, not all day long. My initial thought was 2 hours, maybe 2 hours a day during lunchtime. We would definitely not want to interfere with any other activities that are going on. I know, for example, during the summertime on Friday night, we have live entertainment going on, so we definitely would not want to interfere with that. To give you an idea of what these carts entail. I have two pictures. If I could start with you, ma'am, and just let you take a look at them on my tablet, and then I'll pick it up on this end. That'll give you an idea what we have in mind. And disregard the bald guy in the picture.
Will I recognize him?
This is
Yeah, it looks like a book rack. Do you want me to get you a thing that you can put the ear plug in your ear?
I'm sorry.
Do you want me to get one of these for you that you can put into your ear so you can hear better? So you can hear right through the mic?
I'm having trouble hearing down here. They need to use the mic.
Thanks, Dan.
The way we operate with these carts is, as you saw, we usually have, oh, a big picture of my stomach there. We usually have two people at the cart, either two males, two females, or one married couple. And we talk to people, we communicate with people only if they're communicating with us. In other words, we don't jump out and grab and say, take a look at this. That's not our purpose, and that's the last thing we want to do. If someone has a pleasant smile and shows an interest, we try to answer their questions and go from there. As you see, I had a couple of specific areas that were picked out at this time. One of them, as I understand, I've learned from Larry, is the old phone box or the phone booth.
Yep, used to be.
And the other picture was down at the Fountain Circle. Could be others, but I don't know right now. Those are the two that had shade. At this time, I'm just going to keep my mouth shut, and if you have any questions, I'll try to answer them.
Okay, let's open it up for discussion.
Dan, when the cart is in place, is it, you said usually manned, is it always manned or?
It's always manned. I said usually, that's not really the case. If you've ever gone to the Justice Building on Fridays, we have a cart set up there, and there's always one person. We may have to go and use facilities from time to time. There's always one person there. We don't leave it unmanned because, well, you never know what's going to happen. But, and of course, the most important thing is we want to talk to people. We can't do that if we're not there.
I'm sorry if I missed this. You said you're envisioning like 2 hours during lunch hour period or something like that, but would it be every day or how often would you?
I'm hoping that we can get enough interest from the congregation that we can do that every day, but most likely we'll start with one day, maybe on Friday from 11 to 1. And the only reason why I picked Friday is because that's the last day of the week, and people probably want to get out and get some fresh air and kind of start thinking about the weekend, maybe take a walk around the path.
And Dan, the purpose of the cart versus just having your associates or your people there handing out literature?
The handing out of literature can be a little intimidating to folks that walk by. So this allows a person to show interest only if they want to, because when we start handing things out, it's kind of like people relate that to soliciting, and that's not what we're doing. It's strictly a voluntary interest to folks, and that's about the best answer I can give you.
I have a question. What's in the literature you would propose to hand out?
Well, this will be religious literature.
Well,
For example, if you notice, if you remember, this literature that we had in these pictures had to do with family happiness, something that folks, the public, would be interested in. Yes, the literature is produced by our organization, but again, it's a voluntary interest that people would show. Ultimately, we hope that people will be interested enough to start looking for answers in their very own Bible.
Well, we have, to be the bad guy here in the past, always pretty well refused to let anybody put monuments or carts or anything like that down at the park. Mainly because it opens it up to, you know, a lot of people maybe that we wouldn't want down there. I know that's been our past. Anybody have any comments on that?
I'm a little uncomfortable with the cart. I'm certainly not adverse to your folks being there handing out literature. I think if they're going to be not intimidated by the cart, but you're still going to have people there, to me that's kind of the same thing. So I look at the cart, and it's always going to be manned, you said. So I don't see much difference between your people from your congregation being there handing out literature as the cart. And like Steve said, I think in my mind it kind of opens up an area that we've tried to avoid in the past. Certainly no objections to your folks being there. I do have a little issue with the cart, however.
Anybody else have anything?
I will.
You will.
Yeah, we may have to talk to Mike Valentine on this.
I know in the past too, I mean, we've had, you know, even snow cone people down there wanting to solicit and sell snow cones. We've had Penguin Point at a time come over and want to set something up, or restaurants during our concerts. And we've just not allowed that because we can't allow it for everyone. And that's, like Steve said, that's kind of been the board's direction, to not allow to set up at the park, just because we can't allow everyone to do it. And that's kind of been the direction of the board in the past, but it's certainly up to the board, I mean, with how they feel.
Anybody want to make a motion? Bill, you want to make a motion to talk to Mike?
No, I think we need to discuss this a little more.
Is that a motion?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, if we have a motion to allow it, we can allow it. If we don't have a motion, then it will die here, and we can go ahead and talk to Mike. But if we don't have a motion to allow it, then
I would make a motion, certainly no reflection upon your beliefs and your ability to go down there, but I would make a motion to deny them having a cart like we have everyone else at Central Park. Certainly not to prohibit your other members of your congregation to freely hand out literature, but I think the addition of the cart goes beyond what the board has previously dealt with in the past.
so have a motion to deny. Do we have a second?
Yeah, I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to deny. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I
Opposed?
abstain.
Opposed?
I abstain.
Okay, got that. Okay, sorry.
That's all right. Again, I appreciate your time, and I can certainly understand the concern. You have someone there, and I was just kind of visualizing myself. Pretty soon you got someone with an awning up there, kind of parked out, right out there in the middle of the grounds. And again, it is a public place, so you see one, and I can certainly
Well,
see
we
the
could
temptation
really open it up to groups that nobody wants.
that are not desirable. Understand?
Picking down there, all kinds of things.
Yeah.
All right, thank you very much
Certainly,
again.
You're welcome. Thank you.
professionalism. Thank you.
Sir. Okay, next thing on the new business is maintenance report. Sean?
Yeah, sorry, I just kind of threw this together today. Been kind of busy. So since we last met, we've been really busy with storm cleanup. The tornado that went through before it officially touched down took out 10 or 11 of our trees along Pike Lake. So we really scrambled. I got called in that night because the campground was without power for several hours. It was a pretty nasty deal. And then the random lightning strike yesterday, Lucerne Park. I know it was on Ink Free News. Completely disintegrated a tree. We lost our natural gas to the building. Just some random things, funny things that have happened.
Where was that, Sean? I'm sorry.
At Pete Thorne.
At the, oh, at,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, Pete Thorne. So I spent all day over there today with the guys. The crew did an awesome job cleaning up. Really, you can't hardly tell there was even ever a tree there now. But it shot pieces of lumber across the street from that tree. It was crazy. I've never seen anything like it in my life. But besides that, we have done a few things. We seeded and strolled that whole area around the basketball court and restrooms at Richardson Du Bois Park. And we got grass growing. We actually hit it just right before the rain started, and we've had some pretty good weather for it. K&M has finished the basketball court itself. It's all striped and everything. It looks really, really good. I'm excited for the grass to grow in full and to see that at use. Also, we've installed a water line for a possible future drinking fountain over at Rotary Park. It's not tied up at either end, but it's there in case they do decide to put a drinking fountain at one end. We can hook up to it. We've also helped set up and tear down the family carnival. I'm sure Sheila will tell you all about that night. And then we've added a permanent power structure on the Indiana Street parking lot to accommodate the family carnival and all of their bounce houses. So we don't have to scramble every year and try to figure out how we're going to get power to them. So I think that's pretty much it off the top of my head, just in the little time that I put into this.
I think the power on the Indiana Street parking lot was a good idea and a good necessity, not only for our events, but when we have car shows or other events
Future.
there, we're always looking for power in that
Right.
lot.
And
so
we oversize that with the capability of expanding it in case we do need to grow. We're trying to think ahead there. So.
And then to go back to the lightning strike, we're working with the insurance company right now. We have several big holes in our roof there. We've had Royalty Roofing come out and they've thrown some tar there. They patched 7 or 8 holes. Early this morning, the guys came in the evening before and cleaned the roof so Royalty Roofing could get out there at 6:45 this morning and patch some of the holes. We got another downpour. We found 3 or 4 more holes.
That's at Pete Thorne?
At the Pete Thorne. It's on the north end where
on
the
the
senior center is.
When was the last time we roofed that building?
We did the south end probably 5 years ago.
Probably 5 years
Yeah, that
ago.
was
I'm
not
not sure
bad.
about the north end though.
But it's penetrated several places. In discussions with the insurance company, the adjuster is supposed to come out in 24 to 48 hours. We sent them probably 62 pictures today. I called with the concern that the water is still coming in the building every time it rains, and then they're trying to move this along quickly so we can get a new roof put on that. I mean, that's the only way we're going to solve it. It actually bent the metal underneath, penetrated the metal and bellied a lot of the metal. So we've got some serious issues with that roof. So that's
Yeah,
what we're.
the roofers are planning on being there at 6:30 in the morning again to try to patch up some of the other holes that we noticed after the fact.
Those are just quick fixes, though. I mean,
Yeah, it's not
to do it right, we need to get that.
It's not
roof,
a
so
permanent. They told us from the
Hopefully, the
get-go
insurance
it's
company will see it
temporary.
that way.
All right, thanks, Sean.
Thanks, Sean.
Thank you.
Recreation report.
Hi. So even though Sean called me out on all that stuff, I just want to take a minute, and I do want to thank him and the guys because, you know, my big events especially, I couldn't do without them. And even some of the small ones, they do a lot of setup for me, and so they help me out a lot. So even though he called me out, I'm still going to say thank you. We did have a family carnival. It went great this year. We expanded the bounce house moonwalk areas because that was always a big place where we had huge lines, and there were very, very short lines this year, so that makes me happy. There's a few more places that I want to address with that and tweak some things, but I'm very happy with the way it went this year. Our last movie night was in August, the second Saturday in August, and we had great turnout, 250, 300 people. We showed Ferdinand, and we had great concession sales, and it was just a really great day. My summer staff is now gone. I still have skate park staff for a few more weeks, but all of the rec staff is gone. So skate park is still going strong. Attendance is still climbing. Every day we're open, although we've had quite a bit of rain closures lately because the rain just won't stop. Our last concert is this Friday night. It's the Wisenants, which is the gospel group. I thought that the gospel went really well last year being the last concert. It was kind of like our finale, and so I decided to do that again this year and just make that the last concert of the year, and that's a great finale, I feel like. Just looking ahead to this fall, we've got another Coffee and Canvas coming up in September, and then right now I'm working on all the fall and winter events already. So I think that's it.
Other than that,
Other than that, I just sit around all day.
You lined up the concerts for next summer yet?
Oh, not yet, but soon. Before I know it, I will be.
I will say that Sheila and her staff have had a great year this year. I mean, we've had great events and great programs, and
Thank you.
it just continues to grow year by year. So
We had a great summer staff this year, too.
everything seems to be well attended, well run.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, that's it for new business now. Any other matters
Yes.
for the board? Yes.
I think I owe a board an explanation why I did what I did. It's really pretty simple. If you allow one religious group in the park to put a kiosk in, you better be prepared for everyone, including atheists. That's why I mentioned Mike Valentine's name. I don't know about that stuff, but I know you gotta be careful. And Mike's probably the one to talk to and say, hey, could we get in trouble doing it? Now, we denied the request anyway, so it's academic. But it might come up again.
Not only religious groups, but any group, anybody who wants to come out.
Yeah.
And that's where it, you know.
That's why it's always been our policy in the past to not, allow people to set up. You can't stop them from going down and handing out literature.
Right.
But
It's just the times that we're in. And, we are a public park, and there's always somebody out. It only takes one person.
Yep.
And anyway, thank you.
I'd like to give you a little update on the iStrike system too. It should ship within the next week. That's the lightning detection system that we're gonna have at both our beaches. And, it sure would've went off today. But, at both our beaches, at the campgrounds, and of course Central Park and Byron and Main Stage. They had a part that was back ordered on the siren part of it, but we should see that ship next week sometime. So Sean and the guys have got all the power and everything set for that, so it should be a pretty quick installation. Then we'll have to work on the programming part of it, just learning how to access it and dial it into the range that we want the lightning strike detection to work. But so it is coming. It's just taking a little time. So anybody got those things?
thank you. Meeting review, I'm excited about your plans. I think we're off to a really good start on that. Can't wait till next month to see what you come up with. But can't wait to see what it's gonna cost. That'll be fun.
I have a question though about that. Are we at the point where you can share any renderings with us, or do you want to wait until the more three-dimensional look
Yes.
is ready? Okay.
We'll wait, if they're not created yet. I mean, we really wanted to get to the point to see if there were any major objections this evening with where we're heading. Again, we had a great meeting last week, and now we're ready to put some 3D to it, so stay tuned.
Okay.
We'd like to tease you a little bit along the
I
way.
was going to say, I'd like to take it home and look at it.
Michelle, I could actually send you those. I could email you those.
Okay, that's what I was wondering, just kind of look at it at more leisure and kind of look
Yeah,
at
anybody on
it.
the board that would like those, I have an attachment that they sent me. I
Okay.
can forward
I
that.
think probably
Yeah.
Heather could scan it into Board Pack in our library feature too.
Gotcha.
Then people could pull it up that way.
And we have some poster-sized hard copies of the program.
But yeah, I think it's exciting. I think it's gonna be great for the city if we can get it done. Okay, anything else? If not, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
Motion and second to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we're adjourned. Thank you.
You know, it's out of line and saying what I did. You take a little bit part of it. That's right, and you really got to talk to Mike. I know Mike's
We had to
insane.
do that at the school, because whoever you allow to meet in there, you have to allow people access to anybody.
And if the atheist group says,